So I'm going to talk a little bit about SWOT analysis, and this is something that is really just a simple tool for helping you make better business decisions, and it's really a good way of finding insights into what you've done in the past, and a process for helping you come up with possible solutions for existing problems, or help you identify the possible problems. I mean, of course, we can never know exactly what's going to happen, but we can always count on something happening, because that's the nature of the beast. But everyone has a different perspective on how to go about helping ourselves with the decision making, and a lot of what Sandy was saying gave us a lot of tools to help us go through that decision making process. And there's a lot of programs out there that encourage you, when you're doing the SWOT analysis, to not only include your personal family or employees, but they suggest bringing in, if you have a lawyer or accountant or insurance agent, to bring them in on this process. But personally, I have to say that we have used this tool, just my husband and I, to help us think more clearly through the process when we do our SWOT analysis, and we've used this quite a bit. So the idea is to do this exercise and to look ahead at your next production year. And when I say production, I'm referring to both raising crops and raising livestock. So when I think about combining SWOT analysis, and when I'm doing those, I was looking at in the Holistic Handbook, the testing record on page 84 really gives you another tool to dig deeper and think through the process a little bit better. So just know that there's plenty of tools out there, and these two books that you have as resources will really help you walk through that process and ask yourself some serious questions. And the SWOT analysis, without reading what's on the screen here, basically it's acronym for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So I'm going to kind of go through that a little bit and offer you some perspectives associated with some things that we've done at our place and observations that I've made. So really thinking about your strengths, those are pretty much considered mostly internal, and by that, for example, what you and your family bring to your farming enterprise, your experience, your ability to work together. For our farm, some of our strengths would be that we can do the major portion of the labor ourselves. We already have our infrastructure and most of the equipment that we need. Thinking about what you do better than anyone else. For me, I love marketing, and I've been doing that since my first lemonade stand when I was 10 years old. So that's a real plus for us. We're excellent at planning and managing our time in the fields as well. We have tracked our time well as far as how much time it takes us to do different things, and we can give a pretty good estimate of how long it will take us to harvest a crop and get it ready for market. So really looking at those different things. And in this photograph, it's potatoes for $2.25 a pound. Those are not ours, but I know that at the farmers market, the folks that are selling certified organic spuds are getting anywhere from $2.25 to $2.50 a pound. That's a pretty good amount to get for your potatoes, when typically you're getting 10 pounds for 99 cents at the grocery store. So really they're marketing and looking at their strengths for being able to get that amount for the potatoes is a pretty good deal. Well, it's a good deal for the farmer, and I think most of the customers that come in and are willing to support those farmers and pay those higher prices, that's a pretty good thing. Thinking about your weaknesses and what you could improve. When we started selling at the farmers market 23 years ago, I was the only one selling bouquets of flowers. And every year, more farmers come in, more people come in, the competition increases and changes. And every year, we assess what we're doing, how it's selling, and what we might do to improve our sales. I used to sell my flowers for $10 a bunch, nice big bouquets, and as time has gone by, actually one of my students from a past course that I taught came in and now has, I mean, we only have like maybe a 1/4 acre of flowers, and they came in and did 2 acres of flowers and bring in mass quantities. So I had to reevaluate and reassess what was going on at the market, and I still sell not as many bouquets as I used to, but I still sell a fair amount of flowers and bouquets, but I had to reassess that and change how I was doing it, and now I sell smaller bouquets. I call them table toppers, and instead of selling for $10 a bunch, I sell them for $7 and make smaller bouquets, and that that assessing my weakness, which was a part of looking at the competition and evaluating what I was going to do with that, was a part of that process. But also, we're always looking at opportunities, and that's an important part of the SWOT analysis, and looking at what trends are facing your business. I think this is a great time to be a small acreage farmer. Whether you're growing crops or livestock, most of our local communities are seriously interested in the local food movement. All of the food safety issues that are happening really have people looking and searching for a local food source. So that's a real opportunity for all of us to seriously consider. But you always want to be looking at different opportunities. You know, I pay attention to the ag news and what's going on in California. You know, if the lettuce prices are going sky high there, I might consider growing more lettuce this year. I'm always looking for opportunities. I'm always looking at ways to fill a niche and meet the needs of my community. But I'm also looking at the threats that are associated there. We need to look closely and be realistic about the threats that we face. This means paying attention to your competition and adapting and adjusting to whatever comes. Every single week I walk around the farmer's market and I look and see what everybody else is doing, and I make notes of that. Every year, intermittently, at least a couple times a year, I pay close attention to what's happening with the health regulations and make a point of that. And you need to pay attention to what's happening with the health regs, because it could cost you a lot of money. We used to sell cases and cases of our herb vinegars before the health regulations changed, and once they changed, they required the use of a commercial kitchen. It became cost prohibited for us to continue with this item, so we no longer carry herb vinegars. We also did garlic escape pesto for many years. Once the health regs changed, and we were required to use a commercial kitchen. For a couple of years I did use a commercial kitchen with one of the restaurants that we work with, because we do work with a lot of restaurants. But restaurants rotate, they change, and we no longer have that option, so we've pretty much quit making our garlic escape pesto. I may look into that again, but just think about all the different things that are threats, and those health regs transitioning are certainly one of those things. On the Moodle site there is a SWOT analysis template, and I encourage you to print out several copies of this and use it for analyzing new or existing products or enterprises that you're considering going in. And a lot of this, it's very simplified, very basic, but a lot of it goes along with a lot of things that Sandy was talking about, just in a little bit of a different format. But the purpose of it is to help you have an outlined process that will help you think about some questions that need to be addressed. As farmers, we see an opportunity or a need, and we tend to have a tendency to just jump into new endeavors without clearly assessing the situation first. I mean, I say that as a broad thing. I say as farmers because that's what I do, so I just figured that everybody else does the same. But you guys are all smarter than me because you're already taking this class, and it took me a long time to get to this point. But do print out the template and take the time to really ask these questions, and this will be a nice tool to help you improve and aid you in answering some of the questions as you're working on your holistic plan as well. So I'm giving you an example of a SWOT analysis that we did for an Aperian lip balm that I started making a couple of years ago, and this is the label of the lip balm, and it was just, I wanted to come up with a value-added product that didn't require something I could make in the winter time. So when I started thinking about that, and I came up with a lip balm, one reason because I kept having people come up to me, because Sandpoint is where I live, and we are a heavily touristed area in the summertime between Memorial and Labor Day. And for the farmers market, I kept having people asking me if I knew anybody that had a lip balm, because it's dry here and it'll just get chapped. And after I had a number of people ask me that, I went, well, that seems like a good idea to consider making a lip balm. So I started looking into that. But I did do a SWOT analysis for it, and as I looked at that process, I started thinking about, the strengths of it are that I can make it in the winter, so I'm going to be making that probably next week, and nobody else has it at the farmers market. I have a friend that's a beekeeper who has given me local beeswax, so that's actually minimal cost. I trade garlic for the beeswax. We actually trade garlic for all kinds of things. But looking at the breakdown of costs and going through the process, it's a good item for us. I'll have an analysis of that later. Looking at the weaknesses, the regulations could certainly change like they have with other things as far as the health regs. I did discover last summer that depending on how I store it and where I set it out at my farm stand, if it's really hot, it's going to melt, and I have to be really careful with that. I finally ended up putting some ice, uncovered ice, and setting it on that so it wouldn't melt. But the cost is minimal investment. Looking at the cash flow, that's a good perspective. But for the weaknesses, not too many weaknesses associated with it. But looking at the opportunities, no one else is doing it. The tourists love it. I did discover on the labels, after listening to my customers, they really want something that says Sandpoint, Idaho on it, so I started adding that to the label. The other aspect is something I can do in the winter when I have the time. The cost is pretty good for making it, so those are just some basics with that. The threats, we need to look closely and really be realistic about the threats that we face, and this means paying attention to your competition and adapting and adjusting to whatever comes. Ignoring changes in the health regs can really cost you a lot of money in the long run, so you don't want that to happen.